Hi everyone, this is Sue Reynolds with the Student Achievement Institute, and we are about to begin our next webinar for schools participating in redesigning school counseling and guiding all kids. And the focus of this webinar is on root causes. So I'm going to check the technology real quickly. Let's unmute a few people and just make sure that you can hear me and that you can see the slides. So how about Amy Hedrick? I'm going to unmute you, Amy. Amy, can you hear us? Hear me? Okay. Yeah, I think we did this last month too. I don't think Amy has a mic on her computer, so let me try someone else, or if someone could type in just that you're able to hear and see the slides, that would be great. So let's see. How about Anna's daughter? Okay, Anna's typed in here. Let's see what Anna says. You can hear and you can see the slides. Perfect. Okay. So let's then get started. We have a lot to cover. Not as much as last month, though. I know that in the goals month, that's really a big month, so this will be a little bit less to cover than that, and also a little bit less work this month, which will be nice. So okay, so a couple of updates to begin with. So a couple of things is that in the process page there is a new button that you'll notice where we're asking you to mark your webinar attendance. So right now, as you're listening, or after the webinar, you can go in and just kind of check off for this date who from your steering team is participating. That would be wonderful. And then we've also had some questions. People have asked us, you've got some products now, your steering team roster, your council roster, your vision statement, and your priority goals and focus goals. And people are asking, is there an easy way to share these things with the public? And there is. So I just wanted to show you how to do that. From the steering team page, in the left navigation bar, right at the bottom, there's a link that says Publish Portfolio. So if you click that, it creates a website for you, and where all of the products of your work will be listed. So the first 5 you've got finished right now, so those will be hot, and your public can click on those, and they'll open up. We've not done program activities yet, so this link will not be hot right now, nor the program calendar. So once you've created this website, and again, all you have to do is click Publish Portfolio, and this automatically appears. Copy the URL on that page, and then you can just send that out to people, or you could actually put a link on your school's website that links to your school counseling program that pulls up this page. So that's just a really easy way to share the products of your work. And if for some reason you decide you no longer want to share them, you can just go back to this button and click Unpublish, and things will come down, and that site will no longer be live. So okay. Then another thing that you'll see in the process page, this is just a little thing we did. We thought it might be helpful to you. It's really important on some of the steps that you work in sequence. We had a couple schools that tried to enter focus goals, and they couldn't enter them because focus goals are a subset of priority goals, which are a subset of program goals. And so they just were doing things out of order, and it didn't make sense. So what we've done is, in the status column, we've made it impossible for you to work out of order now in some sections in our process. For example, when you're trying to put in priority goals, you can see right now for this school, these links are not hot. And we've given you a little note in orange that says that this step is unavailable until the program goals meets criteria. And as soon as we've checked those off as meeting criteria, then these will become hot, and you'll be able to go on to the next step. So, okay, that'll keep you from moving forward until we know that everything on the previous step is all good to go. So hopefully that will help you, and you'll appreciate that extra little note there that guides you so that you are working in order. Okay, that brings us up to a quick review. The step that we're doing today on root causes actually is my favorite part of the process, but it's it really builds on the goals. So I want to make sure that we have kind of gone back and refreshed on the goals step from last month, and then we'll move into the root causes step from this month. So, okay, so we've got a lot of our process done. You've got your organizational structure in place, so we've been really excited about the very comprehensive councils that you all have put together this year. They're very broad-based, and we think you're getting some really good discussions going with your councils, so that's pretty exciting. You've collected a ton of data, so that step is pretty much finished. I know some of you are still surveying students, but you're wrapping that up. So the data collection steps are pretty much coming to a close for this year. And then you've gone on to create your foundation. So you've got your benefit statements, your vision statements, and your goals statements all in place. So there's just 2 steps left. This month we'll look at root causes, and then next month we'll look at activities. So, little thing with goals, this is, again, I just want to drive this home that there are 3 different types of goals, and that the different types are subsets of a broader set of goals. So the first thing that you have defined, is that you have identified all of the sound choices that ideally you want your kids to make. And I really want to emphasize the word ideally, because we know right now you're not going to have the time or the resources to help kids make every single one of the choices that you want them to make. So this is just ideally, these are all the choices that we want kids to make. And in future years, when we're coming in with revisions of your school counseling program next year, the year after, as you start to meet goals, we'll always come back to this kind of pool or basket of the ideal choices we want kids to make. And every year we'll be asking, okay, now what choices can we help kids make? Okay, and then the next year, now what choices can we help kids make? So this big pool or basket of student choices will go back to year after year as we continue to build your school counseling programs. So these are the ideal choices. Excuse me. Then we did a subset of those, and we said, okay, so out of all these choices, which ones are so important that you're already working on them, or that you've got plans to work on them next year? Since these are so important that you're already working on them, we gave them the name priority goals. So these are goals from the big basket that are so important you're doing something about them right now. And then we went and drilled down one step further to say, okay, out of all these things that we're working on now or plan to work on next year, what are the few that we really, really want to hit hard? We're going to put a lot of time and energy into them. And so we just want to drive home that these focus goals are the ones now for when we get to root causes, when we get to activities. It's the focus goals now for the rest of our time in developing your programs that we're going to focus on, because those are the goals that you said you really wanted to nail. Okay, so for each of those focus goals now, we are identifying baseline data. You did that last month. And we have target data. We know where you want to get to by a year from now. So now we need to figure out, well, how do we get from our baseline data to our target data? And there's 2 steps that will help us do that. One is the root cause analysis this month, and then the other is activities that we'll do next month. And then the other thing that we'll do is we'll also decide exactly which kids are not making these choices. Is it across the board and none of our kids are making this focus choice? Or is it just the boys that are not making this focus choice, or just the 3rd graders, or just the the Hispanic students or the free and reduced lunch kids. So we're really, for each of those focus goals, we're really delving deep in them. We've got baseline data, we've got target data, we're going to figure out which kids aren't making those choices, and then we're going to figure out why they're not making those choices. So that's why we didn't want you to have a large number of focus goals, because we don't think, in most schools at least, that counselors have the time or energy to go deep with a large number of focus goals. Okay, so just want to see if maybe you all can type in or raise your hand. If a couple of you could just share, just curious, how many focus goals did you come up with? And maybe just share one of them with us, which is that are most important to you. And I know a lot of you are listening to this webinar with your steering team. So I'm going to just take, I think, 3 minutes and give you a chance to look at your focus goals and kind of remember how many you have. You can pull up the focus goal report in the online system if you need to refresh your memory. And then just look at maybe one that you'd like to share with us that you think is really important to your work in your school. So I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes, and I'll resume in 3 minutes. Okay, here we go. So you're focusing on your focus goals. I think you probably heard my timer go off. So, okay, so yeah, let's hear from a couple places, and I see some people have typed in, so that's wonderful. So, let's go back to the response pane here. Yeah, so Brian says, and Brian, remind us what school you're from, if you would. If you type that in there, that'd be great. Brian is saying that at their school, they have 3 focus goals. Good. So I like that because it's not maybe spreading you too thin. I think that's good. He says one goal is for all of our students to have a written plan for their future, including possible careers, post-secondary ed plans, four-year high school plan, testing plan, and yearly academic goals. And he's at Frankton Junior Senior High School. So wonderful. So when I'm looking at that goal, I'm seeing that at Frankton, they're looking at both career development and academic development. They're going to mesh them together and look into some future planning. That happens to be my favorite goal ever because I think that in order for kids to have a meaningful plan, they have to have a lot of information, and they have to have somebody to guide them along the way. So as I'm looking forward for Frankton Junior Senior High School, I'm thinking, man, this is going to be a focus goal that I believe will really make a difference. So that is super. I'm really glad too that with a focus goal that's as robust as that one, that at Franklin they don't have more than 3 focus goals, because I think just to do that one to make sure that, and when he's typed this in, he has said this is for all students, and all is all in caps. So they're really focusing on every student in the building, and just to make that happen with every student is going to be, a significant amount of work. So I'm glad that they've not, decided to take on 10 focus goals, because I think that would be a problem for most counselors, too much. Let me see if there's anybody else in here. I don't see anybody else that's typed in. So, but that's great. So let's just use that, and we'll kind of maybe come back to Frankton as we continue to talk, because that's just a great example. So good. Okay, thank you. And I hope that in that 3 minutes of silence, the rest of you had time to kind of look back at your focus goals and to kind of remember what they are, because everything that we do now with root causes are going to be geared towards, in Frankton's case, it'll be geared towards those 3 focus goals, or however many your school has. Okay, and thank you, Brian, for typing that in. That's really helpful. So, okay. So as we get ready for meeting 4, there's 2 tasks that we need to do prior to the meeting. One is to send an automated email to all of your council members. It's really easy to do. You just push a button in the system, and our system will customize the email for you so that it includes information that's related just to your school, and then it will automatically send it out to all of the council members. So this is kind of what the email looks like. We're basically asking people, your council members, to do an at-home root cause data analysis. And I'll go through kind of the instructions with you and kind of talk through what we're asking the council members to do before they get to your meeting. So in the top of the email, we're basically saying that during the next meeting of the council, we'll identify root causes for each of the focus goals that you established at the last meeting. And then we're going to remind them that the focus goals are to increase the percentage of students who, and then this will drop in your school's focus goals. So in Frankton's case, there will be 3 bullets, and one of them will be for the student's future plan. And then it goes on to explain, so we're teaching a little bit about root causes, that our students may not be making these choices because they lack knowledge, they have a social personal issue that's interfering with their ability to make sound choices in general, or we're not giving them the opportunities to participate. So, for example, if part of Frankton's future plan is that students identify an area of career interest, but they've never given kids the opportunity to take a career interest inventory, then we know we have an opportunity issue. But let's say that at Frankton they gave a career interest inventory, but the kids couldn't remember what their career interests were. It was just an activity they did on one day and then they forgot about it. Then we have a knowledge issue. So what we're trying to do in this section is we're trying to figure out why kids aren't making the choices that we want them to make. And again, a lot of it may be opportunity. At Frankton, maybe kids don't have a future plan because we've never asked them to given them the opportunity to create a future plan. So lots of things could be going on. So then the email goes on to say, to save time at the next meeting, please do these steps that are listed in the instructions below. And here are the steps. So step one is that your council members are going to open up a root cause data report. And at the bottom of the email, there's a link to that report just for your school. So, and the email is going on to say that while these reports do not contain any individual student data, they do contain information that some may consider sensitive and therefore should not be shared with the public. So there is no individual student data in these reports. So based on FERPA, there's no problem with you sharing this data because it's all group data. And of course, we don't release information when the N is less than 10. So we're all FERPA compliant. However, we know that sometimes, schools just don't want folks talking about the percentage of kids that feel like they're being bullied or the percentage of kids who have a career interest inventory or whatever. So we're just going to ask the council members not to talk about the survey results in public. But if they do, it's not a big deal because it's all group data. It's in my own school. I wanted the whole community to know my data. I mean, I figured the more they knew what the issues of our kids were, the more they would jump in to help. So it's not going to be a problem if they talk about this stuff in the grocery store. But I don't know, we just put that in there just to be sensitive that some schools may not want this discussion to happen outside of the guidance of these meetings. So, okay. Then in step two, we're asking your council members as they read the report, ask themselves, what could be keeping our students from making the choices that we identified as our focus goals? So in Frankton's situation, they're going to say, what could be keeping kids from creating one of these future plans that have all these different components of it? And then when they find an answer, we're asking them to write some notes on a sticky note. And we're saying, when you find an answer, this is a possible root cause. It's something that we want to consider. So they would write down 4 things on the sticky note. One is what goal is impacted, what focus goal is impacted by the data. The report title, so we found this on the guidance needs report or the counseling needs report. The possible root cause, and then their initials. So when they come to your meeting, so when they, again, I'm going to use Frankton as an example because, this is great. They have 3 focus goals. When their council members come to the meeting, they're going to come with a little stack. Each of them will have a little stack of sticky notes. And at the top of each one of them will be, okay, one of their 3 focus goals. And then we're going to use that information and all that thinking during the meeting. So this is what the sticky sheets might look like. So all 3 of these sticky sheets refer to the same focus goal to increase the percentage of kids who enroll in an AP course. So this is obviously a high school example. And then in the first sticky note, the council member found something in the guidance report, and they cited that 50% of the kids don't know if the school even offers college level courses, and they think that may be keeping them from enrolling in those courses. They don't even know they exist. So, and then they've put their initials there. Then, as the same person was reading the student assistance report, they found some data that said that 50% of the kids are reporting that stress is interfering with their learning. And, that may be more of a general root cause that's keeping kids from making good decisions across the board. Is that because they're so stressed, and that, stress may be keeping them from choosing more rigorous courses. So they think that may be an issue. And then on the last one, they've also looked at, same council member has looked at the opportunities report, and they've seen that the counselors have reported that the students don't have an opportunity to take AP classes. So it may be that on the PSAT assessment, that College Board has said that there are 68 students in the school that could be successful on an AP course, but they only offer one section, so there's not enough, it's not enough seats for all kids to be enrolled in AP. So they've identified that as a possible root cause for why kids aren't enrolling in AP. So there's each council member will bring these sticky notes with you, and then you'll see in a minute how we're going to use those sticky notes during the meeting to generate discussion. Okay. And then the last step is to bring all the sticky notes. Okay, this is what the bottom of the email looks like. So on the root cause data report, when they open up that, they're going to see they're going to see three sets of questions. One is the guidance needs questions, the counseling needs questions, and then the opportunities questions from the self-study that the counselors that you guys filled out. So we'll see all of that in one report that just has the root cause data title at the top of it. And then we are also giving them access to drill down reports. This is something that we're going to ask just the steering team to look at. It's the second pre-meeting activity. But we also want to give your council members access to this data if they would like to look at it. So in this data, they're able to drill down to see on each question, how did boys answer this question versus girls? How did free and reduced lunch kids answer this question versus our paid lunch? How did the 9th graders answer this question versus the 11th graders? So there's all the student group data that really helps you understand which kids are not making the choices that you want them to make. So as Frankton, as they drill into that drill down data, they're going to be looking at, okay, which of the kids have these future plans? Is it our paid lunch kids are more likely to have one than the free and reduced lunch kids? So they're really going to delve in to see which kids. Okay, so then we're asking them to kind of just think about discrepancies between the various student groups. In most of our schools, we see discrepancies. I'm going to show you a couple examples. Let's wait. Okay, so that's first task. It's just to get that pre-meeting memo out to everybody. And again, you just push a button and off it goes. Okay, a second task before your meeting is to to study for your steering team, to study these drill down reports, the root cause drill down reports. And as the steering team, begin looking for gaps. And then if you find gaps, you're going to add those gaps to your council presentation. So let's say that Frankton is looking at gaps for which students have future plans and which don't, and which students don't. And they discover, let's say they discover that the paid lunch kids are much more likely to have these future plans than the free and reduced lunch kids. So before they get to the meeting, there's a slide where they're going to identify that for the council. So they'll be able to stand up in front of the council and say, as we dove deeper into the data, we discovered that our free and reduced lunch kids are less likely to have one of these future plans. And so as we're looking at our root causes, we need to be thinking about what's getting in the way of those free and reduced lunch kids. in your elementary schools, or actually across the board, but often in elementary schools we find that there's gaps in gender, that one gender will make choices at a different rate than another gender. And then when we're looking at trying to figure out why kids aren't making these choices, we need to think about, well, why aren't boys making this choice at the same rate that girls are making this choice? So that drill down data is really going to help you focus the activities that we design in the coming month. Okay, so let's just talk about how this drill down data. So let's pretend we're looking at the percentage of students who plan to attend a four-year college. That's the focus goal. So we're pretending now that that's one of our focus goals. So when we are talking about this focus goal at the council, we want to just kind of present that right now 54% of our students are planning to attend a four-year college, and we've made it our target that we'll get up to 75% a year from now. So, and this data is from a real school. It's from a middle school, and they wanted their students as they left middle school to be planning to attend a four-year college and to have selected high school electives for 9th grade based on their plan to attend a four-year college. So a real school's data. Okay, so now we're drilling down. Well, is it all kids or is it just some kids? So to get to the drill down reports, when you go to the survey results, down at the bottom of the page, you'll see all of these different reports that you can order up. And all of the focus goal data will be in the Plans and Choices report. And you can see there's just all different kinds of ways that you can drill down. One interesting way to drill down is by grade level, and but you can drill down by gender, by IEP status, if students are enrolled in special ed classes or not, if the kids' parents have been to college or not, their typical grades. And you can also create a student group. So let's say you're in an elementary school and your school improvement plan is really focusing on third grade African American males. You can go into our system and say, show me what third grade African American males say, and that group data will pop up. So you can create your own reports, or you can go with the ones that we have already in there. Okay, so let's say, and remember, this is a real school's data. What you plan to do during the first year after high school? We're looking at four-year college. We know that for all students, the percentage is 54%. But when I look at, again, here the drill down for lunch status, 49% of the free and reduced lunch kids said they plan to go to a four-year college, 63% of the paid lunch kids. That's kind of a big gap. So if I were in the school doing the force field analysis, the root cause analysis, I would be wanting to think about, well, why aren't my free and reduced lunch kids planning to go to a four-year college, and what can I do to address those needs? So, okay, so that's lunch status drill down. Here's parental college status. So same question, same focus goal. This time I'm going to see how did the responses play out over parental status. We can see that if the parents went to college, the parents have a degree. 62% of their kids say that they plan to go to a four-year college. If the parent has no college experience, it's the 50%. But the data that always jumps out at me is for kids that are unsure if their parents went to college, 30%. So really a big gap there. And across the board, I think as you look at all of your data, check out this the kids who aren't sure if their parents went to college. Almost across the board, we see that these kids are making choices that are there's a lower percentage of kids making the choices that we want them to make when they're not sure if their parents have been to college. So just something to look at, and don't forget that using our online system and the student list generator, you can figure out who these kids are and provide some like tutorial guidance for them or extra help and guidance for them if you'd like to. Okay, here's a grade level drill down. I think this is really interesting. 51% of the kids in 6th grade said they wanted to attend a college or university after high school. That went up to 58% by 7th grade. And I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. Maybe they put some programming in here or something. But then it dropped back down to 51%. And again, there's a lot of reasons for this. And that's one of the things I love about data is that it just begs other questions. So I'm curious in this school, why is this that we have a dip from 7th grade to 8th grade? Is it because all of a sudden we've asked kids to sign up for high school classes and they're realizing that if they're going to a four-year college, they're going to have to take harder classes? Or it may be that the counselors did a lot of programming in here and kids realized that apprenticeship programs and two-year colleges and military, that those are viable post-secondary options too. And so now, they're looking at other areas and not just at four-year colleges. So there's a lot of reasons for this, and that's one of the things I love about data is that it just begs you to kind of ask those questions. Okay, if you find focus goal gaps prior to the meeting, what you'll do is there's slides in the presentation that you'll use at the meeting where you'll just drop them in. So free and reduced lunch, paid lunch, parent has a degree, no degree, not sure, parent has a degree. So you can, fill in just whatever speaks to you. If there are no gaps, you could just say to folks, we looked at the data and it's really across the board. No kids are making these choices, and it's not one student group is making the choice at a different rate than other student groups. So that's fine. You don't have to find gaps. Okay. So that's the prep. I'm going to open up the presentation, and this would be a great time to type in questions if you have them, and in a second I'll look at those questions and we'll answer them. Okay, I'm going to go to my question pane and see if anything else has come in. And I don't see any other questions. So again, type those in there if you have questions so that I can make sure that you're clear on how to do this meeting. Okay, so now we're at the council meeting. And remember, two things have already happened. One is your council members have done a root cause analysis at home before they came in, and they're bringing all their little sticky notes with them. And then the other thing is that you have dropped some of the focus goal gaps into this presentation. You'll see where those pop up in a second. So, okay. So now we're at the meeting. We're presenting the discussion prompts, and we're starting out by saying, okay, there's 5 parts of this meeting. We're going to start out with a quick review, then we're going to introduce root causes, and then we're going to talk about our school's general root causes and our specific root causes. And then there's a really easy little task we'd like to talk about before we meet again next month. So there's the agenda. Okay, so quick review, and this is the same as I went over with you earlier. On this slide, you could do one of two things here, either pass out a copy of the Focus Goals report or just type in your focus goals and the baseline and target data here. Either way is fine. Okay, and then here's the root cause introduction. So I love this quote. This quote came from a woman who's an environmentalist in Kenya, and she was a Nobel Peace Prize recipient. And she said, we often preoccupy ourselves with the symptoms, whereas if we went to the root cause of the problems, we would be able to overcome the problem once and for all. So again, we know that kids aren't making the key choices that we want them to make, those focus goal choices. But now we're going to the root cause. Why aren't they making those choices? So definition, a root cause is simply an explanation for why more students aren't making those targeted choices in our focus goals. The question now is why. So why don't kids make good choices? Well, there may be some general reasons. So students may have a social or emotional issue that's interfering with their ability to make sound choices in general. So in Frankton's situation, they have three focus goals. There may be some social and emotional stuff going on with their students that make it difficult for them to make any good choice. So we want to identify those general root causes. And then we also want to identify specific root causes for each of our focus goals. So in Frankton's case, they're going to have this discussion 3 times. They'll say, okay, here's our first focus goal. What don't kids know, that's good, and because they don't know that it's making it difficult for them to make that choice? Or what opportunities are we not giving kids to help them make that choice? They'll have that discussion, and then they'll come back around. They'll say, okay, here's focus goal number 2. What don't kids know that they need to know? What opportunities do kids need that we're not giving them? And then they'll come back with focus goal number 3 and do the same thing. So we're going to first look at general goals, what's impacting everything, and then we'll come back one at a time and look at each focus goal to see what's impacting that specific focus goal. So we're telling our council members that there's clues in the data, and that, at home over the past week or 2, they've been jumping into these root cause reports, and they've looked at the students' guidance, the students' knowledge, their social and emotional concerns, and the opportunities that we're giving kids. So we're beginning with our general root causes, and those are things that are getting in the way across the board. So what situations do you find in the data that would make it difficult for students to make any of the choices listed in our focus goals? And then I've given you some examples, and they tend to be more the social and emotional root causes. So kids are stressed, kids are depressed, kids are afraid of failure, and those things are making it just difficult for them to function and difficult for them to make good choices. So we're going to look at general root causes, things that impact everything that kids do. So the folks will have their sticky notes. They can start looking at them. They can, start sharing things that they've just discovered in the data at home. And then at their seats, each person in their packet of handouts for the meeting has a copy of this brainstorm list. So as the first idea comes up, so the first person who speaks says, our kids are stressed. And they say, we couldn't believe it. 80% of our kids, said that they felt stress and thought that was interfering with learning. So when they say that, then the meeting facilitator is going to say, okay, get out this piece of paper, and across from number 1, write down stress. And then the second person gets up and says, our kids are afraid of failure. And then the facilitator would say, okay, across from number 2 on paper, write down fear of failure. And this would go on until all of the possible general root causes are listed. Then the next step is that the meeting facilitator is oops, I went ahead too far. The meeting facilitator is going to say, okay, of everything we've written down, check off the 3rd that you think are the most getting in the way. So if there's 12 answers, you'd tell people, check 4 of them. If there's 3 answers, you'd say check 1. So we're looking for 1/3 of however many responses is how many checks everybody gets. Okay, so no, I guess I did not get ahead of myself. So that's what we're doing here on this slide. We're actually there's just a mistake in the slide. This, and I'll fix this and upload it so that when you download it, it has the right slide in there. This handout should appear here. I'm ahead of myself in the handout. So same slide, it's just that this form will change. So we're asking them to check a 3rd, And then at the same time that everybody at their seats is filling out this sheet, one of your steering team members is up at the Instagraph writing in what's being reported out. So stress, eating disorder, getting along with teachers, bullying, fear of making mistakes. And then this is an Instagraph like we've used in the past. Everybody will come up, and whatever third that they voted for or checked off on their sheet, they'll come up and just put dots next to those. And then we'll just build that Instagraph, and then we can kind of come to consensus that, okay, we feel as a group that stress is really the thing that's getting in the way. Or you may decide that there's two biggies, stress and fear of making mistakes. So yeah, and it wouldn't be surprising to me if these were the top two on your list across the board in Indiana. With all the tens of thousands of students that we've surveyed, these tend to be the two that are the highest. So, okay, so that's general. Now we're going to come back to the specific. So, and again, in Frankton's case, they're going to do this part of the discussion 3 times because they have 3 focus goals. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask everybody to take their sticky sheets and put them on this big poster. So the poster will have your focus goals at the top. In Frankton Junior Senior High School's case, there will be 3 columns because they have 3 focus goals. If you have 4 columns, there'll be if you have 4 focus goals, there'll be 4 columns, etc. And then there's the 3 different reports: the guidance report, counseling report, and opportunity report. So everybody will take their sticky notes and they'll stick them on this poster somewhere. And then one at a time, we're going to talk about each of the focus goals. I've seen schools do this where they have one poster for the whole group, and everybody just comes up and puts their sticky notes on, and then they go to discussion. I've also seen schools where if there's a really large council attendance at that council meeting, they may break into small groups and have 3 or 4 people working on a poster. So if you decide to break into small groups, you would need a poster for each of the small groups for them to put their ideas on. Okay, so we're getting all the sticky notes up there. So we've got everybody's ideas together. And now we're going to, one at a time, go through each of the focus goals. So focus goal 1, so in Frankton's case, they would have written, the benchmark is that the percentage of students who have a future plan, and then whatever their baseline data is, and then they said all, so their target data is 100% by, whatever date. So then they're coming back and they're saying, but, as our steering team dove deeper into the data, we just want you to know, as we're talking about our root causes, that we saw some discrepancies in how students filled this out, how they responded to this question. So while 75% of our paid lunch kids said they had a future plan, only 30% of our free and reduced lunch kids said they had a plan. So this is where we're bringing in the gaps. And again, your school counseling initiative with either RSC or Guiding All Kids is to not only help all kids, but to close gaps. So if there is a gap in students making choices, sound choices, we want to begin to close that gap, and we want your root causes to kind of try to explain why that gap is there. And then we also want your strategies, your activities next month to look at how we're going to close that gap. So, okay. So then the prompt is, are students not making the specific choice, okay, that is in that focus goal because they lack knowledge or an opportunity? And if so, what is it that kids don't know? And what is it they don't have the opportunity to do? So again, in Frankton's case, a council member might say they don't even know what a future plan is. And we've never given them the opportunity to do a future plan. We've never given them the opportunity to take a career interest inventory. We've never given them an opportunity to do campus visits so that they can learn about, different post-secondary options. So, there may be just one opportunity that comes up or no opportunities, or you may find that there may be 8 or 9 opportunities that they come up with that kids don't have. There may be a lot of things that kids don't know. So, and again, the more of these you can tackle, the more likely it is that kids are going to make the choice of having, that's related to your focus goal. Okay, so then as people are talking, this will work the same way as the general discussion went. You'll ask people to write down all the different ideas that come up. So kids, don't have the opportunity to take a career interest inventory. They don't have the opportunity to do a campus visit. They don't know what a future plan is. They don't have anybody to talk over their future plan with. So then they'll vote on their paper, they'll check off a third, and then there will be a specific Instagraph for that specific root cause where they'll come up and put their dots up. So, and again, you'll repeat this process for each of your focus goals. So Franklin will do it 3 times. However many focus goals you have, you'll do it that many times. Okay, and this is just a note for you. You'll want to take this note out. That's why I gave it the pink background. That we need to make sure that your council members have a specific root cause brainstorm sheet for each focus goal. So in Franklin's case, they'll have 3, and that you have the Instagraph for each focus goal. So again, Franklin will have 3 Instagraphs for this. Okay, and now that's it. So we're going to come out of this meeting with our general root causes and our specific root causes for each of the focus goals. Then we want to get people to start thinking about what's going to happen next, which is designing activities to address those root causes. So here's the discussion or the homework. What activities will we do to address our root causes so more students will begin making choices that are in the focus goals? So I keep coming back to Franklin. I'm so glad that they shared in the beginning of this webinar, but in their case, they'll be talking about, they'll be saying, okay, next month, we're going to talk about activities that we can do to address the root causes we just came up with. And our homework is, what activities could your place of employment or a community organization that you're part of do next year to help students make these focus goals? So this is really kind of key. We're starting to look here at the idea that guiding kids is not just the responsibility of school counselors, but it's really a community responsibility. At this point in the process, most counselors understand that counselors' time is limited, and they also understand that kids have all these needs and that kids would make better choices if we could address the root causes. And in a lot of places, we've seen community organizations step up to say that they could help. In my own school, just as an example, when we did this, I was blown away by how many community organizations stepped forward. So, for example, one of our focus goals was on kids choosing to fill out merit-based scholarships. And one of our Purdue Extension Homemakers clubs, these women, I think, were all in their 90s, but they just got all fired up about merit-based scholarships. And they, the person that was on the council went back and talked to all the members of the club, and she came back and said, we'd like to make that our mission for next year is to, what can we do to help kids fill out merit-based scholarship applications. And so they came in and we brainstormed, and I felt like we all of a sudden had 12 additional people on our staff because all of their club members were out, working and coming into the school and doing things to help me, and all around that one focus goal. I mean, it was just amazing. So that's a possibility. So it could be that, a place of employment, well, let's go back to Franklin. If they see that, they're wanting kids to do a future plan around careers, that there's a career component to that, potential careers, It might be that the Chamber of Commerce or the hospital says, gosh, we could do job shadowing. Let's help with that. We can organize that and get all that set up. So we're really looking at expanding the resources you have once again at this step to look at not only, before we looked at where could the counselors get more time and resources, now we're looking at who else could come to the table to do part of the work. So in my own practice, this was amazing. We've helped a lot of schools really beef up this community-based guidance initiative, but it's all connected to the school counseling program because it's focused on the same focus goals. In Frankton's situation, all the community organizations would be thinking, well, how could we help Frankton with those 3 goals? And it just, people start to brainstorm and it just gets kind of exciting. So at the next meeting, they'll come back and there'll be a section in the next meeting where they'll get to share what their organizations have said that they could do to help. So yeah, so that works. And that's it. So one last part, and then I'll come back to questions. And I just want to real quickly go over the online system. Excuse me. And I'm going to scroll down to this month's section, which is on root causes. And the top part is pretty much all the same. Here's that new mark webinar attendance in step 3. We want to continue logging time so that we can, a year from now, when we're looking at resources again, we've got, fully complete data. And then in this section, this is really important. We want to make sure that the council email addresses are correct, because once you push the send button, then it's going to go out to those email addresses. So we want to make sure that they're correct. And then the other thing, since we're sending out the student opportunity self-study, we wanted to give you a chance to make any updates to that self-study. Maybe things have changed since you filled it out at the beginning of the year, but we just wanted to give you a chance before that goes out in this email to update it in any way. In the root cause data report, we're just giving you a chance to review that report as well. This came from the student survey, so and also the opportunities self-study, so there's no place to edit it except in the step before you edited the opportunities, but we just wanted you to be able to see what it looks like. And then there's a reminder to put the focus goal gaps into the PowerPoint presentation. So no steps, just a reminder to do that. And then in this step, you're checking any focus goal gaps that you found. So you would click this, and I'm in demo school. Yeah, I don't have any. What this list is, you'll see each of your focus goals, and then there'll be all the different student groups underneath, and you'll just check the student groups that you found a gap for. Okay, now we're sending the automated mailing to the council. You just click there, and you're telling the system which reports to share. If you're seeking Gold Star or RAMP, you need to make sure that you've shared all 3 sets. If that's not of concern to you, you could check less if you wanted to. Person making the change, when you click that, it'll pull up your steering team members, just identify who's making the change. And then in this section, we're just wanting you to give us some assurances that you understand that all council members with valid email addresses will receive this message. And if you click on that, it just gives you a copy of what the email is going to look like. And then I understand that the email I'm sending will enable council members to view group data, no individual student data, and then who's sending out the email. And when whoever's name you click here, the email will actually look like it's coming from that person. It's not going to look like it's coming from ASA. It'll come from that person in the from box on the email. Okay, and then you just click send the email to the council, and poof, off it goes. Okay, so that's the email. Then you're conducting council meeting 4. You're entering the root causes. That's really easy. You just go in here, you're going to say add a root cause, and you're going to write in, this is one that the general root cause is going to affect all goals. So you would just write in students are stressed or whatever. And what type of root cause is this? Yeah, we'll add in a step here that says general, and then save. So pretty easy to get them in. My demo school doesn't have any focus goals entered for it yet, but there will also be all of your focus goals here, and you'll be able to add root causes for those focus goals. So, okay, that's that. And then, yeah, entering the photo on Instagram, that's really helpful for us to kind of keep us engaged with what's happening at your school and help us to see what's happening at your school. And then the minutes, and then here's the rubric items. That's it. Okay, that's what we had to cover for this month. And we are just a couple minutes over 1 hour, so I know we went long last time, so I want to make sure that we're on time this time. I'm going to go back to the questions window pane and see, not seeing any other questions. So this would be the time to get a hand up if you want to talk or to type a question in, because if I don't see one in the next 30 seconds, I'm going to close. So, and good work, you guys. This has been really a pleasure. Tina has told us wonderful things about the quality of the work that you're doing and how it's coming in on time, and it's just been really, really nice to work with our RSC schools this year. So, okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. I guess the last thing I'd like to leave you with is just a reminder to call Tina when you get stuck. You know, that's what she's here for, and we're eager to answer your questions. So if you do have a question, make sure that you call her. I know that we cover a lot in each one of these webinars, and but Tina's your point person that when, you know, tomorrow or the next day, if you get confused, just give her a call and she'll walk you through answering your question. So, okay, that's it. Thanks, everybody. And for those of you who are off to spring breaks this month or in the beginning of next month, have a wonderful spring break, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.